Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today's Friday, the 21st of August. I am your host, Daniel, and today we're going to talk about Romania has downed a drone near a gas project, North Korea has fired missiles towards the sea, and Ukraine's ex-defense chief has made a gamble against the government, basically, that seems to have backfired. So firstly, Russia's military destroyed a drone near its Black Sea gas infrastructure and blamed Russia, another incursion into NATO territory. The incident fits a widening pattern of Russian drones straying over Romanian territory during strikes on Ukrainian Danube ports across the river. Bucharest is racing to develop a Neptune deep field to cut its reliance on Russian gas, gas project, making the site a strategically sensitive target close to the war. So what? I think the incursion is highly likely part of Russia's campaign against the Ukrainian Danube ports rather than deliberately trying to strike Romania. However, I do think it likely serves a bit of a dual purpose here of also testing NATO's air defences and its appetite for escalation on the eastern flank. There's still this overlooming, kind of threat, no, not really threat, warning from a bunch of NATO countries that they suspect that Russia is going to try and test Article 5 in the next, it was 30 days, about 30 days ago. So basically any time now. So I think most NATO countries are currently on alert for that. But I do think a deliberate Russian strike on Romanian energy assets is unlikely for now, though the risk of miscalculation is rising. It is possible that a drone could get wing-tipped into infrastructure or something like that. We have seen that happen, not in NATO territory, but in the war so far. And next, North Korea has fired what South Korea's military assessed as possible ballistic missiles into the sea in a latest launch that's accelerating its testing cycle. The move follows a run of short-range tests and comes as Pyongyang deepens its military ties with Moscow through its support for the Russia's war in Ukraine. Each launch refines its targeting and re-entry data while signaling defiance ahead of the joint exercise between the United States and South Korea. I think they may have just kicked off. So what? I mean, the launch is almost certainly timed and calibrated to signal, a bit of a threat during this exercise. And it was something that Trump was kind of trying to avoid. He did just cut down on the exercises, trying to kind of rekindle a friendship with Kim Jong-un, which is, a bit odd, but not unsurprising coming from Trump. I do think continued testing is likely to advance Pyongyang's short-range accuracy and their readiness for ballistic missiles. It's also going to be timed to threaten South Korea and just show that they are capable of conducting these type of attacks. And deeper alignment with Russia likely gives North Korea the cover and resources to sustain this tempo throughout the year. Yeah, they're getting a lot from Russia, so it is what it is at this point. And lastly, a recently ousted Ukrainian defense minister moved against President Zelensky, but the gamble seems to have backfired and failed to loosen his grip on power. The confrontation played out amid public protests and unusually open friction within Kiev's wartime leadership. It exposed growing strain over accountability and control as Ukraine juggles the war effort with Western scrutiny over the country's governance. So what? I think the failed challenge will likely reinforce Zelensky's central grip on the government for the short term, maybe even into the medium term. So about 3 to 6 months. But I do think there's growing friction at the top levels of government as to how Zelensky is handling the war effort and what's been going on. I think the relationship with the US kind of put strain on how other ministers were seeing him and, just challenges in the conflict. It is a long-running war, so it's unsurprising that there's friction growing at the top. And I think renewed protests over the governments is a realistic possibility, especially if their grievances go unaddressed going forward. I mean, it's tough because, Ukraine has to also support its war, but it also needs to listen to its people. The people don't want more people to die in the war, but they also don't want to lose. Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. But anyway, that's been the Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again next week. See you.